The day started like any other, with the sun warming our faces as we gathered for the school hiking trip. I was excited, clutching my pink lunchbox, a gift from my mom, filled with sandwiches and cookies. The trail wound through the woods and laughter echoed among the pines. But as we stopped for lunch, something felt off. The other kids were opening their lunchboxes, but one by one they vanished. Not the kids, just the lunchboxes. They disappeared without a sound, as if the forest had swallowed them whole. My heart raced. I looked down at my own lunchbox, still there, but I couldn't shake the dread creeping up my spine. The air grew cold and the birds stopped singing. I wanted to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. Then I saw it, a dark figure standing between the trees, watching us. It had no face, just a shadowy shape that seemed to pulse with hunger. My trembling hands held the lunchbox tighter, and I realized something terrible. The figure only took the lunchboxes that were opened. The kids who had lifted their lids lost something precious, but mine was still sealed. I quickly clicked the latch shut, and the figure tilted its head as if noticing me for the first time. It didn't move toward me, but the silence grew heavier, pressing down on my chest. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and frantic. The other kids were crying now, their lunches gone, their faces pale. The teacher tried to calm us, but her voice was thin and shaky. We packed up quickly, leaving the spot where the vanishings happened. I never let go of my lunchbox the whole hike back. But when I got home, I opened it to eat the sandwich, and inside I didn't find food. Instead, there was a note written in a shaky hand. "You are next." The teacher tried to calm us, but her words were hollow. We searched the ground, but there were no traces, no crumbs, no wrappers, nothing. Then I noticed the whispers, soft voices like children's laughter, drifting from the shadows between the trees. They called my name, but it sounded distorted, as if from a great distance. I clung to my lunchbox, refusing to let go. But then I felt a tug, a cold hand grasping the handle. I spun around, but no one was there. My grip slipped and the box fell to the ground. It began to slide, pulled by an unseen force into the underbrush. I ran after it, my feet pounding the earth, but it vanished into a hollow log. I peered inside, and the darkness stared back. I didn't want to look, but something forced my eyes open inside the log. It wasn't empty. There were lunchboxes, dozens of them, piled high like a grotesque tower of forgotten meals. Some were rusted, some were new, but all of them were still. A cold dread washed over me. These weren't just lost lunches, they were trophies. And then I heard the whispers again, clearer this time. "Stay with us," they said. "You don't need to go back." My heart hammered in my chest. I stumbled backward, tripping over roots and rocks. The forest felt alive, pressing in from all sides. I could hear the other kids screaming in the distance, their voices muffled by the trees. I turned to run, but the path was gone. Every direction looked the same, a wall of green and shadow. The whispers grew louder, blending into a chorus of pleading children. "Stay," they sang, "stay forever." I covered my ears, but the sound was inside my head. Then I saw them, shapes in the trees, pale and thin, with hollow eyes that glowed like moonlight. They reached out, their fingers long and bony, brushing against my cheek. I screamed, but no sound came out. The world spun, and I felt myself being pulled into the darkness. The last thing I saw being my own lunchbox, now empty, lying at my feet. That is when I heard the crunch of footsteps. I turned to see the other kids, their faces pale and eyes wide. They were pointing behind me. I whirled back to the log. A small hand was emerging from the darkness, clutching a lunchbox mine. The fingers were pale and thin with dirt under the nails. I backed away, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The hand pushed the box toward me, opening it slowly. Inside, instead of my sandwich, there was a note. It read, "We were once like you. Now we are here. Join us." Tears streamed down my face as I heard the whispers grow louder, forming a chant, "One of us, one of us." The other kids began to walk toward the log, their movements stiff and mechanical. I screamed, begging them to stop, but they didn't listen. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The chanting filled my ears, drowning out the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. The hand from the log reached out farther, its fingers stretching impossibly long, brushing against the sleeve of my jacket. I felt a cold grip tighten around my wrist, pulling me toward the darkness. The other kids had formed a circle around the log now, their eyes hollow and empty, like they were no longer in control of their own bodies. "Join us," the whispers repeated. Echoing from every direction, the lunchbox lay open on the ground, the note now glowing with a faint, sickly light. I could feel my own will slipping away, as if something deep inside me was being pulled out, piece by piece. We were on a school hiking trip, a bright autumn day with leaves crunching beneath our feet. The kids were excited, chattering and laughing. I was a teacher's aide, new to the job, nervous but happy. Around noon, we stopped for lunch. Every child had their lunchbox wrapped in colorful patterns. We found a clearing near an old forgotten trail. The kids sat down and started eating, but soon something felt wrong. The forest grew quiet. The birds stopped singing. And then one by one, the children stopped eating. They just stared at their lunchboxes. I called out to them, but nobody answered. The air turned cold. I saw their eyes glaze over. Suddenly, as if on command, they all stood up, picked up their lunchboxes, and began walking down the trail deeper into the woods. I shouted, ran after them, but they moved silently like ghosts. Their little feet didn't even rustle the leaves. I tried to grab the nearest kid, but he pulled away, his skin cold, his eyes empty. They disappeared into the trees. I was alone. I stumbled through the forest, panic rising. I radioed for help, but the radio only emitted static and a faint, whispery sound. The trees looked the same everywhere. I tried to find the trail back, but every path I took felt wrong. Hours passed. The sun began to sink. I could hear something in the distance chanting, children's voices, but distorted, as if coming from a deep well. I followed the sound against my better judgment. I found the children in a small moss-covered amphitheater. They were sitting in a circle, each holding their lunchbox, now glowing with a pale light. They were chanting in a language I didn't understand. I hid behind a tree watching. The lunchboxes opened slowly inside each. Instead of food was a small dark hole. The children reached in and pulled out strange objects, tiny bones, feathers, teeth. They placed them in the center then. The biggest child, the one who always smiled too much, turned and looked directly at me. He pointed. The others turned too, their faces blank, but their smiles stretched too wide. I ran. I stumbled backward, running until my lungs burned. The forest seemed endless, the trees closing in like walls. I could hear the whispers chasing me, echoing through the branches. Finally, I burst into a clearing. The school bus was there, but it was empty. I climbed inside, locking the doors, my hands shaking. Through the window, I saw the mouth of the trail. The kids were standing there, staring at me, their lunchboxes in hand, but they were smiling an unnatural, hollow smile. The bus engine started on its own. I drove away, but the mirrors showed their figures shrinking in the distance. Now, I keep my lunchbox locked away in a trunk. I never open it. But sometimes at night I hear the whispers calling my name, and I wonder, when will they come for me?